Well, welcome to the San Antonio Botanical Garden. I am Andrew LeBay, Director of Horticulture. I've been here for about 5 years, and it's an absolutely wonderful place to work and visit. And so right now we're going to be talking pollinator gardens. So everything from the plants, the practices, and tour our garden and see some of the wonderful spots where you can see displays for pollinator gardens. Okay, so we might ask ourselves, why pollinator gardens? Why is this important? Why is it been trending in recent years? Most of our flowering plants, of course, co-evolved with pollinators. They are necessary for their life cycles, both from the perspective of the plant and from the perspective of the pollinator. It can be an important relationship. And pollinators have been on the decline. Due to things like habitat loss and the use of certain chemical pesticides. We've seen great declines in our pollinators. This has impacts on our environmental structures. It also has impacts on certain crops that need those pollinators in order to go to complete. And so, you know, even small gardens, small backyard pollinator gardens can be important. And so pollinator gardens have been on the rise. I can also say not only are they important from an ecological standpoint, but there are also just wonderful gardens to be in. When you have a garden that is full of activity with our insects and butterflies or hummingbirds, those can be just wonderful moments in the garden. They're lively, they're active points, you know, and so they're gardens that we certainly love to be in. When we consider having a pollinator garden, there are a few things that we want to take a look at. One, again, is having a large diversity of plants, and specifically a large diversity of native plants is what we target. In addition to that, sources of water for our pollinators, and this can be, for example, like a water feature in the garden, like behind me we have a small bird bath. It can also just be a spot maybe we leave in the garden that has undisturbed soil that we pull a little bit of water, maybe in the shade, for those insects to access. So a water source, also sources for shelter for our pollinators, maybe a large shrub, some trees, a fence line, those type of things, having a diversity of structures within the garden. In addition to that, we want to consider having not only a diversity of plants, but having blooms throughout the seasons. So from spring through fall, even into winter, having plants that'll provide sources of food for our pollinators. We also want to consider the types of plants. We want both nectar sources and sources of food for the young pollinators, the larval sources of food. For example, for our monarch butterflies, we think of milkweeds. We think of the native milkweeds like the green milkweed, the antelope horn milkweed, the zozotes milkweed. Those are some great milkweeds for our monarchs. But then also the nectar sources for the monarchs, say our goldenrod, the asters and such that come into the fall, are great food sources for them at that particular time. So having both those nectar and the larval sources, different types of plants. In addition to that, we want to consider the overwintering spaces. Quite often in our garden we want to jump in and clean out a lot of the dead leaves and debris and dying material in the winter, but those create great habitat for overwintering insects. And so we recommend leaving those until late winter into early spring for our pollinators. Well, now we are in the Kais Water Saver Garden at the San Antonio Botanical Garden. This is a garden that we partner with the San Antonio water system. We're focused on drought-tolerant plants, perennial plants, that of course are water saving, but we produce a beautiful display. There are over 100 different types of plants in here. It's a great spot in addition for our pollinators because of that diversity of plant life. When you are building a pollinator garden, of course you want to focus on a wide variety of native plants, you know, and especially those that bloom throughout the different seasons, from the spring through the fall and even into the winter. And this garden provides a wonderful opportunity to see that, and it invites a lot of the bees, butterflies and hummingbirds and such throughout the year. Well, here we are in the old-fashioned garden, one of the older central portions of the San Antonio Botanical Garden. This is another great example of a pollinator garden. There's a great diversity of plant life here. It's also a monarch way station, so we specifically plant plants that will attract our migrating monarch butterflies. And when we think of monarchs, of course, we think of our milkweeds. And so we have a diversity of milkweeds in this garden. Antelope horns milkweeds are native milkweeds. We also do grow the tropical milkweed, the Asclepias curicivica, which is here to my left. This is one that monarchs certainly love, although we do recommend in the fall cutting that back in order to encourage the monarchs to go ahead and continue their migration. So when we're building gardens for monarchs, we want to not only consider those host plants, the milkweeds, which are very important, but also our nectar sources. Certainly fall blooming plants like our asters. Here's some goldenrod that's highly visited. Cowpen daisy, frostweed, autumn sage are additional plants that we may consider that will bloom, you know, into the fall, late summer into the fall, as our monarchs are visiting us. So here we are in the production greenhouses at the San Antonio Botanical Garden. We grow over 30,000 plants out of this one greenhouse alone annually to move into the gardens. For our pollinator gardens, of course, milkweeds are important. Here I'm holding a tray of Asclepias asperula, our antelope horns milkweed. We tackle bringing our milkweeds into the garden in a number of ways. For example, growing them out in the greenhouse and transplanting them in the fall like we're doing with this batch. And we also put seed out in the fall to grow up. They're somewhat challenging plants to get to establish and transplant. And so growing up a large number and transplanting them in the fall is a great way to target that. So here I am at our production greenhouses for our plant sales. And so this has been a long-standing program that we pride ourselves in producing a great diversity of unique plants that you don't normally find at the local nurseries. We have about 5 plant sales a year. These are largely perennial plants that are perfect for our environment, native and well-adapted perennials that quite often are ones that will attract our pollinators. And look for our plant sales coming up in September and October. Thank you again for joining us on this tour of the San Antonio Botanical Garden. This is certainly a jewel of the city. It's a wonderful place to visit. It's also a wonderful place for education. We have many classes on these topics and others. You can check our schedule, our calendar of events online. It's also a great place to volunteer, where you can come out, enjoy the garden, and help it grow as well.
Hi, Christy Summers with Gardening Volunteers of South Texas. Welcome to Rainbow Gardens over here on Thousand Oaks. I'm on the aisle where all the pollinating plants are under your sauce coupon, and I want you to take a tour with me today and talk about some of the pollinating plants. Now don't forget, on the west side of San Antonio, we also have a Rainbow Gardens on Bandera Road. So you can visit either one. They're sponsors of our group, and we're going to go down the list here and down the row, and we're going to talk about some of these great flowers that flower all year long for the pollinators. The grass mixed flower is also one of the good ones, but if you do have deer, they will eat these. Now, if you come to Rainbow Gardens, I want you to go inside and get a list of the plants that are on your coupons, but let's go down them and let's walk this way. And I'm going to tell you the ones that flower the majority of the year that will keep the pollinators happy and your garden looking beautiful. We're at the Blackfoot Daisy. This is on the list with the coupons. This one blooms a lot. It's very, very drought tolerant. And the butterflies, the bees, the hummingbirds, they all love this little flower. And it's just a pop of white, and it's really cute, and it does spread, and it comes back every year. This is a great one for all year for your pollinators. All right, so I want to show you some of my favorite pollinators, the Mexican firebush. This one is gorgeous, pop of orange, but all the pollinators love this. And then we got the frog fruit, the smaller firefly firebush. These are a little more compact, and you can see the differences in the leaves. Some of our flame acanthus, I actually have these in my yard, and they're always blooming all year long. I love these. Some more Greg's Blue Mist. And then we've got the Turk's Cap, the Mexican honeysuckle, another pop of orange. Some people get these flowers confused, but oh, who doesn't love a yellow Esperanza? The hummingbirds love these because it's like a trumpet flower and they go in with their long beaks. So definitely Esperanza. The liriope is actually just now blooming. It only blooms once a year, but the deer will eat those. Your plumbago, my ultimate favorite in blue. This one blooms all year long too. It is an evergreen bush, so you will have a bush all year long. It also comes in white, but I love the blue. Bees and the butterflies love these. All of your skullcaps and your salvias, those are great. They pollinate all year long and flower, so those are good. I see a big bumblebee right there. And then milkweed, we've got to take care of our monarchs. Monarchs will eat the leaves with the caterpillars and become beautiful monarchs. So every variety of milkweed should be in your garden. It's in mine, and I see a beautiful Pride of Barbados over here. Rainbow Garden has a pink and yellow one specifically for Rainbow Garden. Okay, so this is your Pride of Barbados, and what I love about Rainbow Gardens is they have a pink and yellow one, which is really my favorite. Milberger's has orange and yellow, and Fanning's has red and yellow. So these are pollinators. They come back every year. They're perennials, but the pollinators love them, all of them. Look how beautiful this plant is. You need a Pride of Barbados in your yard. I love the purple lantana. This was modified by the Texas Ag Department so the lace bug does not get on this and kill this. This also will live all year long and bloom all year long. I have this in my front yard coming out of a pot that looks like water's coming out of it. It's beautiful, and I just love the color of purple in this one. This is a great one if you want color all year long. Okay, and here we have some Mexican heather. They're low growing plants to the ground. They do flower all year long. They don't require a lot of water. They do come back every year. They are perennials, and they have all these, you can see a bumblebee on it right now. You can also put them in hanging baskets. So these are beautiful little plants. I love the little green leaves, and they will spread out on their own and repollinate. As we wrap up our tour today, over here up near the front registers as you check out, come up here. This is what I call my golden area. They have Mexican petunias in purple, pink, and white. These are also low growing pollinators, flower all the time. These could actually bloom all year long too. If you're looking for a border plant, this is a great one for that. So it depends on where you live and what you want to put in your garden, but all these are in mine. We'll see you next time. Hi, Christy Summers with Gardening Volunteers of South Texas. We're here in Hollywood Park at the Voigt Center. I'm here with Polly. Polly's going to tell us, she's the president of a nice gardening club, and how they developed this whole area.
Thank you. In 2017, this Voigt Park was remodeled, and we had a landscaping company which came through and designed the plants, and they included a small butterfly garden here in the central aspect.
Yeah, I see that right here.
Yeah. And so the plants did okay for a couple of years, and then they really weren't thriving. And so Kelly Cowan, the Public Works Director for the town of Hollywood Park, asked the Rockin' Oaks Garden Club if we would be interested in revitalizing the butterfly garden.
Okay.
And so we formed a committee and researched the aspects of a good pollinator habitat and chose plants for planting in the spring of 2020.
Nice. So this was all taken down to nothing, and you guys started all over again.
It had predominantly yellow gold lantana.
Okay.
And some Mexican bush sage and red yucca.
Okay.
And that was about it.
Well, let's go down to one of your areas down here and let's talk about some of the pollinating plants so people that are viewing this will know which plants to put in their yard.
Okay.
Okay, so Polly, this is your original butterfly garden here. How did you decide how you're going to design this and pick which plants worked with what?
The first thing we did was determine how much sun the area would get throughout the day and throughout the seasons. And this particular bed is shaded by the large hackberry and chinaberry trees next door and this sycamore. And so it's pretty much full shade.
Okay.
So we selected plants that could tolerate full shade, such as the Turk's cap and the rock rose.
Yeah, that one's right there. And then I noticed you have some milkweed to help with the monarchs.
We do. We have tropical milkweed and some Texas gold columbine.
Okay.
And the Turk's cap and the rock rose are host plants for the caterpillars, which is an important facet of a pollinator habitat.
Absolutely.
You want to have food for the caterpillars to eat. So the gray hair streak is one of the caterpillars that will use the rock rose as a...
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. So back down this way, you wanted plants to be in the full sun. Right. So let's walk down there and see what you planted down there while we follow this little hummingbird.
Okay.
So tell me about the different milkweeds that you decided to plant here.
Well, we tried to include some native milkweeds in our planting. So we have a Zizotes milkweed, and that has kind of whitish, purpley flowers. And we also have this butterfly weed back here, which is the Cephalus tuberosa, and it has orange flowers. You can also see some of the seed pods on the...
Is that what that is? Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
Yeah. And in addition to the tropical milkweed, one of the criteria for our certification as a monarch way station was to have at least 10 different milkweed plants and at least 2 different varieties of milkweed.
Okay, awesome. Well, that makes sense. I'm sure the butterflies just love it over here. And you have several yucca plants. I love those.
Yes, the hummingbirds love those. And then we have another host plant here, which is common fennel. And that is the host plant for the eastern black swallowtail butterfly.
Oh, nice.
And in other years, we've had 10 to 20 caterpillars on that plant all at one time.
Well, Paul, I want to thank you for being such a great host today, taking us through your beautiful butterfly garden here at the Voigt Center. So tell us, is this open to the public?
It is open to the public.
And does your garden club come in here?
Our garden club is responsible for the maintenance of the garden. We do weeding and planting and pruning, and it's really nice when the residents come through and see the plants and compliment us on the garden, and
Well, I
we're very
noticed-
appreciative of the signs.
Yeah, and you also
yes.
have little signs that tell them what the plant is, so that's nice. And what's the name of it again?
Rock and Oaks Garden Club.
Rock and Oaks Garden Club. All right. Well, thank you, and thanks for the beautiful garden tour.
Morning, everybody. My name is George Wisman with the Trinity Glen Rose Groundwater Conservation District. We're out here at Madla Park, one of the natural areas in northern Bexar County. We're here to talk about groundwater conservation and groundwater conservation districts. We find that as people learn more about the water supply, they tend to conserve water more. The Trinity Glen Rose Groundwater Conservation District in northern Bexar County was created in 2001 by the legislature and passed by the voters in 2002. We manage the resource, the Trinity Aquifer in northern Bexar County. We're one of about 98 GCDs, groundwater conservation districts in the state of Texas. It was created due to the fact the area is considered a priority groundwater management area, the Hill Country priority groundwater management area. Priority groundwater management areas are areas that are expected to experience water quality or water quantity problems. Ours most likely will be a water quantity problem because the resource is not an infinite resource. In Texas, groundwater is managed by groundwater conservation districts. It's the preferred method of the state to manage groundwater under local control. Surface water is managed by the TCQ, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. So let's talk about what groundwater conservation districts do. We're tasked with conserving, preserving, and managing the resource, the groundwater resource, at least for us in northern Bexar County. And we do this through rulemaking authority, education outreach, and studying the resource as best we can. Managing on a regional basis shows us that we can produce about 25,000 acre feet in northern Bexar County annually to meet those goals. To learn more about the Trinity Glen Rose Groundwater Conservation District, please visit our website. And you can do your part in protecting the aquifer by practicing water conservation on a daily basis.